So this was me last week. Happier than ever over this painting.
Sup, I'm Ellie and welcome to the channel.
And then there's this painting. Full transparency. This painting was actually done before last week's painting. And then it wasn't, and then I gave up. But that painting, the Snow White painting, could not have been what it is without the disaster of this painting. Let me explain. As I mentioned in last week's video, and even the video before that, I primed these canvases with roof and ceiling paint. It's not ideal and I don't recommend it, but I did it as an improvise because I didn't have anything else on hand. Here are some of the biggest challenges. The wall and ceiling paint dries chalky and absorbs paint like crazy, which means layers. Layers upon layers upon layers. And even though I was using gouache for these paintings, not watercolors, gouache, when met with moisture, reactivates like watercolors, i.e. paint, because paint is wet. So the paint reactivated the paint. Until eventually there was so much paint on the canvas, the paint started lifting. Though I do think a contributing factor to that whole scenario is because the canvas is primed with wall and ceiling paint. And well, when I noticed that, my natural instinct was to try and fix it. The only problem is the more paint I laid down over it, the more the paint lifted. It was super annoying, to say the least. Although, looking at it right now, from this angle, it doesn't look that bad. In fact, the face has that semi-washed out look I'm always trying to pursue. And the hair is rich and vibrant in comparison. I could have made this work, but this is not what it actually looked like. The camera seems to subdue some of the blemishes and flaws. So, in essence, you're not getting a true sense of what this painting actually looked like in this moment in time. That said though, it was still not that bad, but in reality there were patches of lifted paint across different areas on the face. A small section right in the center of the forehead, multiple spots around the mouth and next to the nose, and right in the crook between the nose and eye on the left side. So I decided to switch gears and use coloring pencils to top it, which actually worked pretty well given I didn't know if it was going to work at all. And this is pretty much what it looked like after I topped it with coloring pencil, and as you can see, decided to shade with blue. The hair though was not so problematic yet, so I decided to continue on with paint on the hair. So far, so good. Kinda. I was pretty happy with how the painting was going on the hair, but there was something about the top coloring pencils that just wasn't punching. So I decided to ignore it until the end and see how everything pulls together. And voila! Beautiful. I think that pulled together nicely. Something though was still just a little bit lacking, but decided to pull through until the background was done. The background was extremely difficult to achieve because again, the wall and ceiling paint dried chalky and absorbed the paint like crazy. And because I didn't just want a dead blue background. No, I wanted a white glow around the girl as well. A glow that would take hours to achieve. Because I wanted a smooth transition from the light to the dark. But again, this is gouache that reactivates when met with moisture. So possible, but not easy. And now for the finishing touches. The flyaway hairs, the little sparkle on top of the cap, freckles on her face, and even little blemishes on the cap itself. And overall, not bad. I could have left it like this. I could have been happy with this. But I wasn't. And I finally figured out what it was about the coloring pencils on top of her face that bothered me so much. In spite of it being so much better, it lacked depth. And while the canvas couldn't take anymore, it was tapped out. Try as I might, I couldn't top it with any more coloring pencil. Which sparked a new idea. That being that the face is now layered with so much wax, it might just serve as a barrier enough to take more paint without lifting. I was wrong. And even still, in this shot, the camera subdues the patches. It is so much worse than what you see here. In the end, I decided to abandon this project because realistically, there is no saving it. Not without sanding this down and priming it from scratch, because the paint will just keep lifting and make it progressively worse. That said, without the mistakes of this painting, the Snow White painting couldn't have turned out the way it did. And that's it for this video, but tell me in the comments, what is one of the biggest improvised mishaps you ever experienced?
Thank you so much for watching.